May I ask you a yes or no question? Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, we have.
It's day 15 of Utah versus Kouri Richins. And this case was slated to go a lot longer. And all of a sudden it just came to a screeching halt. And I know that for me, it's a little difficult sometimes to just reset. But here we are resetting today for closing argument. It's, one could say, an epic day. Closings are one of my favorite things. What do we expect today? There is unlimited time for closing argument. We'll see if that's a blessing or a curse. The defense said that Attorney Lewis was doing closing, but then Attorney Nestor kept saying, so I can argue this and I can argue that. It was like she was prodding the judge to figure out which theory of the state she was going to argue, and the state just sit there and was just silent because that's the only thing you can do. She's like, but if this and what about that? And it's like, girl, the judge isn't writing your closing argument for you. And what I expect that we will see today is pre-instruction, which means the judge will give the jurors the instructions, then the state, then the defense, then the state if they get to it. Then I expect that we will, well, we'll see if that gets us to the end of the day and there's any time left for deliberations with unlimited time to close. Who knows how long closings may take? I think anything over 3 hours from either side gets to be on to a bit much, but there's a lot of nuance to this case. And remember, there is a murder, an attempted murder, 2 counts of insurance fraud, and 1 count of forgery. I expect we'll see the defense attorneys use their jury instructions in their closing arguments quite a lot. I expect we'll see the defense try to cash in on some of the promises they made in opening. Let's go to court, shall we?
Kouri Richins feels aggrieved and is thus an intensely ambitious person. She feels aggrieved because growing up, her father was an alcoholic who traded parenting for prison.
Holy
and her
shit.
mother, a gambler who traded parenting for a casino. Kouri Richins thus worked for her aunt, cleaning the homes of rich people in Park City. She was not beneath those homeowners, but she felt that she was. This fueled in her an intense desire to appear privileged, affluent, and successful. First with Eric's money and then other people's money,
OPP.
Kouri Richins carefully curated the facade.
Close enough.
Of a privileged, affluent, successful business owner. Behind the facade, however, Kouri Richins was incompetent. She took tremendous risks.
Oh boy.
She borrowed money by any means necessary at exorbitant rates.
She's gonna hate that.
She gambled other people's money and lost. Her business was imploding. Kouri Richins is an intensely ambitious person. She is a risk taker. There was a way forward. Eric had to die. As Judge Mrazek just instructed, there are 5 counts. And each count has a series of elements. The state has to prove each count and each element of each count beyond a reasonable doubt. That is our burden. In this closing, we will go count by count, and then within each count, element by element.
I like how they broke these down with the 2 insurance fraud, the scheme of the insurance fraud, the claim of the insurance fraud. I think it's incredibly helpful.
To show to you how the state has met its burden of proving aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, 2 counts of fraud, and forgery. The evidence will prove that Kouri Richins was the person who committed the aggravated murder. The evidence will prove that she intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Eric Richins, here by means of administering to him the illicit street drugs that she purchased from Carmen Lauber. She intended to kill him with the illicit street drugs. It doesn't matter what illicit street drugs. We'll get into it more. It doesn't matter if it was the propofol, if it was the fentanyl that actually killed him, if it was oxy or some other illicit street drugs. She bought illicit street drugs to kill Eric Richins. Here we have an aggravated murder charge, and the state will prove two separate and distinct aggravators. The first is for pecuniary gain. This is a why aggravator. Why did Kouri Richins kill Eric? For money. The second aggravator is a how aggravator.
They only need
how
one of
did she
these.
do it?
But they can
Here,
find both.
by the administration of any substance. Here it happens to be fentanyl, but it could be any substance administered in a lethal amount.
It doesn't have
Either
to be an
one of
illegal
those
substance.
aggravators are what transforms this case from a murder case
An aggravated.
to an aggravated murder case. Kouri Richins asked two people, Hayden Jeffs and Carmen Lauber, for the Michael Jackson drug. Kouri Richins was a suburban mother real estate agent. She does not know a lot about the illicit street drug world, but she knows Michael Jackson died from taking drugs. She doesn't know how to order a street drug, but she knows she wants the Michael Jackson stuff. She knows she wants it because
She
it
wants
is
the
lethal,
lethal stuff.
it is fatal, it kills. And she wanted lethal, fatal death. We also know that Kouri Richins
There it is.
intended to kill Eric Richins because the toxicology contained quetiapine.
Last one. What is quetiapine? Quetiapine?
Quetiapine is an antipsychotic medication. It's called Seroquel.
Okay. I gotcha.
It's a prescription, mental health medication that's prescribed for different things.
I gotcha.
Uh-huh.
The quetiapine in the toxicology
Why are you faking?
for Eric Richins shows that Kouri Richins was involved because she was prescribed quetiapine. Now, this conversation that she recorded with Dr. Christensen is also very insightful. She pretends to not know what quetiapine is. It's her prescription. Of course she knows what it is. She pretends to not know what it is to cover up her involvement in putting the quetiapine inside Eric's body. She covers up her conduct in murdering Eric Richins in several ways throughout, beginning the night she murdered him, all the way through the walk the dog letter.
Docket 214.
In the orange notebook, she writes, she jumped out of bed, ran, turned on the lights, grabbed her phone, and called 911.
That's not quite accurate.
The evidence proves that is not true.
Here's
The
that
evidence
evidence.
proves that when she returned to their bedroom, Kouri Richins says she was in Ashton's room. There's no evidence of that. But she returned from somewhere to their bedroom, unlocked her phone, put it on speaker. There's no call detail records showing a call at that time. But she may have called on Wi-Fi. Somebody. That would not appear in the call detail records. It would appear on her phone.
Ooh, Kouri does not like this argument at all. Damn.
But she may have called on Wi-Fi. Somebody. That would not appear in the call detail records. It would appear on her phone if her phone had not been deleted.
Objection, Your Honor. These are facts that are
Overruled.
not.
Please have a seat.
Sit back down, Miss Lewis. But what if it's not in evidence? He didn't say she did. He said she may have. Why was the speaker turned on her phone? Is it a reasonable argument from the evidence that the reason the speaker would be on is because you're on a FaceTime call? That is a reasonable inference from the evidence. But he told her to sit back down.
She then unlocked her phone again at 3:08, 3:10, 3:15.
All right, one objection.
3:19. And then 15 minutes later,
The slide
she called
shows
911.
the phone activity.
That is not immediately called 911. We're going to listen to the first part, actually most of the 911 call again. I ask that as you listen to it, you'll hear the first minute. The first minute is not the sound of a wife becoming a widow.
Oh, shit.
To echo her friend Chelsea Barney, the first minute is the sound of a wife becoming a black widow.
Oh, damn!
We're going to run a clock from the time that the dispatcher asks her if she can start CPR to the time she purportedly starts it.
Oh, boy.
It's 6 minutes.
Oh, shit!
Contrast that 911 call with her self-serving text message to her best friend, Chelsea Barney. I tried so fucking hard to save him, his lifeless body on my bedroom floor. I pumped so damn hard, so hard, screaming at him to come back to life, that I needed him.
Oh, boy.
None of that happened.
Yeah, you would have heard it.
She's covering up her involvement in murdering Eric Richins.
Yeah, where's the screaming?
Sheriff's deputies gave Kouri
This is the
Richins
death
early
form.
morning of March 4th to write out what happened. It says, describe in detail what you saw, know, or heard of the incident. Where does she start? Eric and I put the kids to bed around 9 p.m. We had a drink. In Kouri Richins' mind, that's when the incident started. It was the drink, and she knew it because she put the fentanyl in the drink.
That's a solid connection.
She didn't start with, I walked into the bedroom at 3 a.m.
Damn.
My husband was not breathing and cold.
Damn.
Describe the incident. The incident for her begins around 9:15 when she has the drink, because she knows that is in fact when the incident began. Kouri Richins would borrow money by any means necessary.
Yep.
6 times she submitted inaccurate bank statements to lenders to get money.
Oh, it's a lot of exhibits.
Those bank statements reflected her business account and balances in C&E's business account.
The spliced accounts.
This evidence proves the level of financial desperation that Kouri Richins was in late 2021 and early 2022. Kouri Richins needed cash immediately when she murdered Eric. Eric's long-term earning potential, immaterial. She wanted to close on the Midway Mansion. She had no money to refurbish it, to flip it right away, to run it as an event center. But she was going to close on it. She needed money now. Doesn't matter if Eric's going to earn a ton of money down the road. That does not help her now with the Midway Mansion. It does not help her now with servicing her existing debt. She needs money now because she's closing on the Midway Mansion on March the 4th. She didn't want to close until she knew Eric Richins was dead, because she knew she would have his money. She knew she could do something with the mansion. And that's why when everybody else signed on the 4th, or in advance of the 4th, she signed on the 5th. It's unconscionable that she closed in spite of his death.
Defense has their mics on.
It's unconscionable that she closed because of his death. Now for the aggravator of administration of any substance.
We're only on to the second aggravator.
Any substance in a lethal amount. The substance here happened to have been fentanyl, could have been any part of the illicit street drug that she bought, happened to be fentanyl that she administered in a Moscow Mule and a shot or a shot. But we know that's how she administered it because
she said it.
Belly.
Right. It was in his belly, and she said it.
We know it was a lethal amount.
They really did a good job on the pauses.
Fentanyl killed him. That's the substance, lethal amount. Can be as small as 3 nanograms per milliliter. And in this case, he had 15. 5 times what can be a lethal amount. That, by the way, is not an accident. That amount of fentanyl shows that Kouri Richins wanted Eric not only dead, but good and dead.
Oh, shit. Oh, I wonder if this will spill over into talking about the attempted murder, right? She didn't just want him dead. She wanted him good and dead. She wanted him actually dead because of February 14th.
Now, count 2.
Yep.
The
That makes so
aggravated
much
murder.
sense.
In each instance, she purchased drugs from Carmen Lauber a few days out. In each instance, she spoke with the IRS a few days out. Taxes were on her mind.
Interesting.
Eric would find out if the IRS was after them. In each case, she had an immediate financial stressor. We just discussed closing on the Midway Mansion. If you look at Brooke Carrington's materials, she had a note due on Chelsea Barney's house.
That's
shortly
right.
before February the 14th. She had an immediate financial stressor in each instance. In each instance, she administered the substance in a way that Eric would ingest it.
Great
On
slides.
Valentine's Day, it was a sandwich. When she murdered him, it was a drink. Notice that she learned from her mistake.
That's what we said.
One can season a sandwich with fentanyl. Eric can eat it,
Not
tell
finish
something's
it.
wrong, set the fentanyl-laced sandwich aside.
Not in a shot. Not in a drink.
You throw a lemon drop shot back. By the time Eric would notice, the shot was in. It was in his body. Moscow Mule, just to be good and sure.
Wow.
In each case, she leaves Eric alone. She distances herself from the dirty deed.
Done
She
dirt
leaves
cheap.
the bedroom when she murders him. She leaves the county when she attempts to murder him.
Song lyric, not commentary. Sorry, chat.
That's part of her alibi. Not only can she not be present, she has to be distant. So that when she calls 911, she says, I wasn't even there. I was in Utah County.
Great parallels.
And in each case, she has a delayed response, right? It's the delayed response in calling 911 when she murders him. And it's her delayed response in returning home when she failed to murder him. Count 3, the scheme charge relates to the $100,000 True Stage policy. We're going to put it up in a minute. The fraud claim charge relates to the $250,000 True Stage policy. The forgery, which we will get to,
Is this signing?
is a forgery related to count 3, the scheme charge. The scheme is quite simple. Kouri Richins wanted to murder Eric Richins, thus took out an insurance policy on his life to get money for murdering Eric Richins. Then she murdered Eric Richins, and then she submitted a claim to get the money. That is the scheme. And we know it was Kouri Richins.
I'm still stunned they paid
because
her, honestly.
everything on this application for this $100,000 true stage insurance policy returns to Kouri Richins. After Kouri Richins took $250,000 out of Eric's home equity, he put all of his insurance that he knew about into the trust.
That part.
If Eric had filled this out, the beneficiary would have been the trust, not Kouri Richins. Then we'll get to the signature. That's the fraud count 5
That
as well. It plays into this.
is a-
We'll talk to it during count 3.
That is a very good point with the beneficiary information. He knew that everything was beneficiary to the trust. So why would he make this a beneficiary to her and undermine the trust that he set so much time and effort and money setting up?
Now for the insurance fraud claim count 4.
I like that he's walking through these counts. I think it's needed.
This is the true stage $250,000 policy. This is the claimant's statement filled out. Kouri Richins beneficiary.
I mean, I watched every minute of this trial with all of you, and I still forgot this document. I know we saw it. I know we talked about it. Still forget.
Everything about this claim says Kouri Richins is submitting this claim.
That's her handwriting from everything that we've seen.
And then,
The phone calls.
like before, the fraud here, the falseness of it is she says she doesn't know where the fentanyl came from, when in fact she ordered illicit street drugs from Carmen Lauber. We've discussed most of the forgery when we discussed count
Throckmorton?
3. But there's this without the authority to do so element. It's not a forgery if Eric gave Kouri Richins permission. The state has to prove that Kouri Richins did not sign Eric's name with permission, with authority.
And this is the last count. I imagine they're just about done with the first part of their closing. Because why would he have given her
All of
permission?
the evidence in this case proves that Kouri Richins does not ask for permission, she takes. The evidence proves that Kouri Richins murdered, attempted to murder Eric Richins, and that she committed 2 counts of insurance fraud and forgery. The evidence does not support any other rational explanation.
I think he might be done with his part of the closing. I imagine they'll take a break.
The state, since its opening statement, has stressed the requirement to consider the evidence that has been admitted and not what the attorneys say. What the attorneys say, insinuate, speculate, is not evidence.
Oh boy.
Please let me show you why the state has stressed this. In the defense's opening statement,
Oh.
counsel said that the evidence will show that Kouri Richins had a 1/2 interest in the Willow Court home. There is no evidence of that, and indeed contrary evidence. Defense counsel said that the evidence would show that Eric was always checking Kouri's phone.
Oh boy.
There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence will show Eric and Kouri Richins went to marriage counseling. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that
boy.
the evidence will show in the few weeks before Eric died, his closest friend thought that he and Kouri Richins were the happiest together that the friend had ever seen. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the night Eric died, he and Kouri Richins had their drinks and set their cups in the sink. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence will show that the cups were sitting in the sink and the nanny put them in the dishwasher the next morning and they still had fluid in them. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that Eric talked to a friend named Scott Wagner at 10 p.m. the night he died. There's no evidence of that, and indeed contrary evidence. Defense counsel said that the evidence would show Eric unlocked Kouri Richins' phone at 10:30 p.m. the night he died, and this is the last thing that he did.
Oh boy.
There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence would show investigators interviewed Kouri over and over and over again about what happened the night that Eric died.
It does show they interviewed her at least twice.
There's no evidence of that.
Over and over and over again, no, but at least twice.
Defense counsel said that the evidence would show that law enforcement secretly recorded Kouri Richins' phone conversations for over a year after Eric died.
Did they say that?
There's no evidence of that, and indeed contrary evidence. Defense counsel said that you will hear Kouri Richins telling her family that she purchased pain pills for Eric at his request.
It's in the Walk the
You
Dog
did not
letter.
hear that, although she did write it in the Walk the Dog letter
Fair.
4 months after she was arrested. In listening to defense counsel's closing argument, please only consider the evidence that has been admitted.
Damn, Bloodworth. Can the prosecution comment on what the defense showed and didn't show without burden shifting? Yes. They did not say that the defense had to show you this. They said defense said the evidence would show this. It did not. That the evidence would show this. It did not. That the evidence would show this. It did not. They're not saying the defense has to show you. The defense failed to prove. The defense said the evidence would show. The evidence did not show. Law Nerd, a quick thank you to our sponsor, Gusto, who not only makes Team Baker's life easier because it makes payroll easier, but we're actually celebrating our 1-year anniversary with Gusto as our payroll software. Not only does it make it easy no matter where in the US Team Baker is, but it also has saved us a lot of money because it takes care of not just those payroll tasks, but payroll, HR, and more. Gusto is an online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. Gusto includes automatic tax filing and simple direct deposits. You can manage health benefits and commuter benefits and workers' comp and 401k, so Gusto can grow with your business. Plus, if you need more help, Gusto has HR professionals available when you need it. So no wonder it's the #1 payroll software according to G2 for fall 2025, and trusted by over 400,000 small businesses, including Baker Media. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/EDB and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/EDB. Just one more time, gusto.com/EDB. Now let's get back to the case briefs.
In the early morning hours of March 4th, 2022, the house was quiet. Kouri Richins fell asleep in her young son's room, like many parents do. At some point in the night, she gets up and walks back down the hallway to her bedroom. She slips back into bed beside her husband. She settles in next to him. She reaches over, and he feels cold. Eric Richins, the father of her children, the man that she has built a life with. Something feels wrong. She pulls the blanket up around him, but something still isn't right. He feels heavy. She turns on the light. And when she looks at her husband, really looks at him, she realizes something is terribly wrong. And in that instant, in that bedroom, in the quiet early of the morning, Kouri Richins' world collapsed. I put to you that every fact that the state has put forth to say that Ms. Richins is guilty has another reasonable explanation. Let's go back to March 3rd, 2022. From everything we've heard during this trial, Kouri and Eric were happy that night. They were celebrating. Kouri was just about to close on the Midway mansion. Rightly or wrongly, she believed that this was going to be the deal that put her over the top. The deal
Of what,
that had
though?
made everything she'd done with her business, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all worth it. The night of March 3rd, they have a celebratory drink, they go to bed, and then Kouri hears one of her sons cry out. And like parents all over the world do, she goes in to lie down on the floor of her son's room.
Her lying on the
An
floor is not
alibi?
evidence, but
Or the truth.
okay.
A big part of this state's case is that Ms. Richins is not grieving properly. You heard this from a couple of different witnesses, 2 or 3. What does that mean? I was unexpectedly widowed when I was not much older than Kouri. And I had
What?
2 little boys.
Ma'am, that is some tenuous ground and cross, Miss Lewis. That is a really fine needle to thread. That is a really fine needle to thread.
Is not grieving properly.
I backed
you
up.
Heard
That's
this from
not.
a couple of different witnesses, 2 or 3.
That's not.
What does that mean?
You're
I
gonna
was
get real close to
unexpectedly widowed
vouching.
when I was not much older than Kouri, and I had 2 little boys.
Hmm.
How do you judge someone in that moment? If I've learned one thing during this trial, I've learned I
Hmm.
didn't grieve right. I didn't know that, but it's clear now that I didn't.
Hmm.
They want you to look at a woman in the worst moment of her life and to judge her grief. There is no wrong way to grieve.
Oh, ma'am.
They're asking you to judge how she is acting at that moment and then use that moment of evidence of guilt. Oh, she didn't tell the boys when she should have. It was weird. She didn't go talk to them. They were in the playroom. Again, because she felt guilty or because she was dreading the most difficult conversation, the conversation nobody, no mother ever wants to have with her young sons. Their father is dead.
I think that point's fair.
The father that everyone agrees was a wonderful father is gone, and she has to tell those little boys, you're never going to see him again. Believe me, that conversation may be the worst moment in a mother's life. How can a woman be judged on how she handles that moment? Let's talk about the investigation. The investigation in this matter was nothing but sloppy. It was driven by bias. Did you notice during the state's closing they didn't really even talk about the investigation? Instead, they speculated. What was in people's heads? What were they thinking? Speculation, conjecture, not proof.
Kouri's words.
Instead of looking at the evidence to determine what happened, the state they determined what happened, and then they found the evidence to support it. This is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you favor evidence that supports a belief and ignore evidence that contradicts it. That is how this entire case was investigated.
Ma'am, same initials,
Working backwards from a conclusion.
wrong case.
I want to talk about the lead investigator, Jeff O'Driscoll. Here's what he testified that his investigation
Your
consisted
turn, O'Driscoll. Smoke.
He got assigned to the case sometime in March of 2023. He got a search warrant for some medical records. He thinks he got a search warrant for a couple of cell phones.
He was not great.
He interviewed Chelsea Barney, where they discovered that they were wrong about some text messages. Law enforcement was wrong with what they thought they were looking for. He interviewed someone named Jake Sorensen, who must not have had
Who?
anything important to say because we never heard from him. Then he interviews Carmen Lauber, because he was told to by the private investigator. That's it. That was the investigation.
Why is Jake catching strays?
He didn't investigate any other leads. He didn't attempt to corroborate information, particularly in the letter that we saw that Kouri wrote to her mother, the walk the dog letter. Now, he told you he didn't need to corroborate that because he didn't get that letter till after Kouri was arrested. So, I guess the state was done. You wouldn't want to start looking for things that might show her innocent. You've arrested her. Interestingly, they were still executing search warrants. They were still trying to find evidence for guilt, but they weren't looking at any evidence that might show innocence.
Pounding the table and arguing the Constitution kind of go
It is
hand in
absolutely
hand.
possible that everything she said in that letter was true. In fact, at least 3 things in that letter.
This is a good argument. I just wish you would stop yelling at me, because this is a good argument.
Were corroborated by the state's own witnesses. But they didn't investigate it. Again, ignore what might contradict your theory. Confirmation bias. Reasonable doubt. Sitting here in this courtroom after 4 years of investigation, there was an awful lot that O'Driscoll just could not tell you. Things he couldn't remember. He couldn't remember what people had told him in interviews. For example, he was asked, did you interview Eric's allergy doctor? Well, yes, but I can't remember what he said. Well, that might have been important because he testified the EpiPens in the house belonged to the children. Well, maybe because Eric had recently used his a couple of weeks earlier when he had an allergic reaction. He said, well, if I could have a few minutes, I could find out what was said. I could give you more information. We were in trial. He was on the stand 4 years after Eric had died. 3 years after he'd been appointed as lead investigator. And either he wasn't prepared to testify or he just didn't know.
I mean, it's fair. O'Driscoll was not great.
He is the lead in.
However, I will say the symmetry of this shot from whoever is operating the camera, producer snaps for this. You got O'Driscoll with the former attorney Sky Lazaro over his shoulder, and then you can see Eric Richins' sister and brother-in-law right behind Sky.
We know he had norfentanyl in his body, and this is because his body had started to metabolize the fentanyl. The state's toxicologist told you that the fentanyl could have been left over from a previous use. That was a possibility. Another reasonable possibility. The fentanyl was there from a previous use. That was the evidence. That is reasonable doubt. What else do we know from the ME and the toxicologist? Well, we know that the fentanyl was not put in a drink.
How I remember that testimony.
There was only fentanyl in the blood and not alcohol. The state's toxicologist leaned toward the fact that maybe Eric didn't even drink alcohol, that the alcohol in his stomach was post-mortem decomposition.
Yeah, she said it was possible.
But the other scenario that she said that was possible was that Eric took the fentanyl, then took the quetiapine, had a small amount of alcohol.
Also possible.
She testified that it would take 15 to 60 minutes for fentanyl to make its way into the blood. That alcohol takes 15 to 30 minutes to make its way into the blood. So if the alcohol and fentanyl were taken together, they both would have been there at the same time in the blood. But just the fact that one reasonable possibility is that the fentanyl was taken before the quetiapine and the alcohol gives you reasonable doubt that it was placed in a drink an hour earlier. Dr. Christensen testified the ME's office didn't know enough about Eric's history to determine if it was an accident. They also didn't have enough information to determine it was a homicide. The ME had at least a reasonable doubt as to the cause of death. And the ME isn't held to the high standard that the state is.
It's a good argument.
And there was no evidence that the
They do have
autopsy
doubt.
couldn't have been amended at a later date if additional information was received.
But it's not a
The
criminal.
The ME testified, excuse me, the ME didn't tell you that they couldn't amend the autopsy. He just told you they didn't. Carmen Lauber, interestingly, they barely mentioned Carmen Lauber in their closing. The only witness who can put fentanyl into Kouri's hand. Let's talk about her testimony.
Oh boy.
Admittedly,
Buckle
a lot
up.
of it was painful to watch. And in some ways, she's sympathetic. But she is looking at multiple long prison sentences.
That's not what came out.
And her only way out, her only way was to testify at this trial. But what she could not do was put fentanyl in Kouri Richins' hands. She told you that she had no memory of what actually took place in 2022. During those interviews, she told detectives over and over again, my brain is fried. I've been using drugs since 6th grade. My memory is gone. So what she testified to you wasn't what she remembered. She admitted on the stand that what she testified to was what she had been shown, what she had been told. In the state's last question to Detective O'Driscoll, they brought up the TV show, The House of Cards, but who held all of the cards in this case? Jeff O'Driscoll told you. Carmen Lauber held all of the cards. Their entire House of Cards is being held up by her. And now at trial 3 years later, she comes in here and says she bought oxycodone once and fentanyl 3 times.
Tell me if that lands for you.
She told it very nicely on direct. But when pressed, she couldn't remember anything. Not from 2022, not from 2023. She couldn't remember on Friday what she testified to on Thursday. And you know, I didn't ask her about her mental health or her learning disability to be mean. I asked her because it explains why she was so easily convinced by law enforcement as to what she needed to do and what she needed to say. She described her learning disability as low education. Well, you can decide what that means for yourself, but one possibility is she has an intellectual disability.
Ma'am!
And if that is the case, she is more vulnerable to suggestibility than most people.
Danger! 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 Danger, counsel! Danger! Nope! Nope!
There were a couple of little things she lied on the stand about. Not super important, but I'm going to point them out because they were just untruths. When I asked her if she was on any medication for her anxiety or any other illnesses, she said no. But then later, when Mr. Bloodworth asked her, she said yes, she was on medications. They were in her car in her purse. She told you Nancy Peterson drove to buy the drugs because she didn't have a driver's license. When we showed her that photo was reversed and that she was driving, did you notice how smoothly that story changed? Oh, well, yeah, I drove one way, she drove the other. By the way, where's Nancy Peterson? There was someone who might have been able to confirm Carmen's story, but we didn't hear from her. What else did Carmen lie about? She said on that stand, and she told you, I never violated drug court after I got out, my get out of jail free card in May of 2023. But then when confronted, she had to admit, oh yeah, I did. That's right. She told you, well, I was holding a can of alcohol, but I didn't drink it.
At the concert, right.
When confronted, though, she had to admit that wasn't true. She said on the stand, and she told you that. Oh, I just held it. Oh, but you told your probation officer you drank it. Oh, yeah, I guess I drank it. But what's the most important thing she admitted to lying to? She lied to a judge. She lied to a judge
And
by writing a letter
that's why they
saying
wanted to bring Carmen back in.
that she had been 100% compliant with drug court. And why did she lie to that judge? She wanted to go to Vegas. And she told you on the stand, she admitted it. Yeah, I was untruthful with the judge.
And some jurors might discount her for that. They might.
She was untruthful because she wanted to go to Vegas.
But the phones,
There's a
though.
lot more at stake here than going to Vegas. She is, again, being untruthful to get what she wants. And what she wants this time is to stay out of prison. And she will say whatever she needs to make that happen. Can you feel for Carmen Lauber? You can. Can you believe her beyond a reasonable doubt? You cannot.
But you...
And if you can't believe
Okay.
her beyond a reasonable doubt, you have to find Kouri Richins not guilty.
I don't think that follows.
You know, I'm not going to stand here and say to you that Eric Richins was a drug addict. He wasn't a Carmen Lauber. He wasn't a Robert Crozier. I don't think the evidence shows that.
Ma'am?
But that doesn't mean he didn't use. That doesn't mean he didn't ask Kouri to get him pain pills. He probably did. So what do we know? We know Eric was in pain. He had Lyme disease, which can be very painful. He had back pain. He had knee pain. We know he'd been in Mexico not long before his death. Look at what he was doing,
So
right?
then why
before
did he
his
need Carmen to get him pills? I mean, why did he need Carmen to get him pills? This is the state's
texting.
exhibit she's showing
Pedro Sonora, back and forth,
with
back and
his
forth.
phone activity.
Did they interview him? Like we said, no. He texts his friend Scott Wagner. More, Pedro Sonora. From 8:30, between 8:30 and 8:36, he texts him 1, 2, 3, well, these are back and forth. But between them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 texts. Maybe he made other calls. The state said maybe Kouri was calling on the Wi-Fi. Maybe so was he. We don't know who else he talked to, but this is what we do know.
Well, ma'am, we had his phone though, so I mean, they could see if his phone made other calls because they had his phone. It wasn't wiped, so there.
Oh, which
that's
this is a
different.
good place to bring up. I think that the state did stand up here and they told you that we said things in opening that didn't come in during trial, and that's true. Strategies change during trial. But remember, we are not the ones under an obligation to put on any evidence. It's not us.
I mean, that's a fair way
We're
to
not
address
under
it,
an
I guess.
obligation to prove anything. All right, I'm going to move to motive. The state absolutely did not prove that Kouri's relationship with Josh Grossman was a motive to kill her husband. Yes, they were having an affair. Eric was also having an affair, possibly more than one.
What?
You heard there was a text about an open relationship, and they can laugh about that, but that's what the text said.
No, do not fall into the I have other uses for your throat trap. Ma'am, you are going to lose the jury trying to make unserious texts serious. You have points that you can make. This is not the point.
Eric was also having an affair, possibly more than one.
There's
You
no
heard there was a
evidence of
text
that.
about an open relationship, and they can laugh about that, but that's what the text said.
Ma'am.
You know what? We do not bring this up to make Eric out to be a bad person.
You don't?
It doesn't matter what he was doing in his personal life. That's not the point.
Then why do you keep bringing it
The
up?
point is that there were parts of Eric's life that he didn't share with people. Just like he didn't share with Cody that he used marijuana, or even that he took prescriptions. The point is we all have secrets, and Eric had secrets. But back to Josh. The best evidence that Josh was not a motive for Kouri to kill her husband is that after Eric died, she never did get together with Josh. She didn't show up at the brunch that they'd planned to celebrate the closing on the Midway Mansion. She didn't go on a vacation with him in April. She never even finished paying for that vacation. Josh told you that Kouri changed after Eric's death. That she was grieving. That he saw less and less of
Interesting
her.
argument.
And ultimately, she broke things off. And by the way, if Kouri was as motivated by money as they would have you think, would she really have killed her wealthy husband to run off with the handyman who lived for free in one of her houses?
I mean,
That doesn't fit with the state's theory.
fair question.
Opportunity. Well, I guess her opportunity was she was the only one in the house. Who else was in the house, though? Who else had an opportunity to take those pills?
Eric?
Eric.
Yep, that's exactly where we're going with that.
4 years later, 10,000 searches, over $300,000 worth of expert witnesses.
There were 10,000 searches?
3 weeks of trial. The FBI, the DEA, Homeland Security, the Summit County Sheriff's Office. They cannot tell you how Eric ingested that fentanyl. They haven't done their job, and now they want you to make inferences based on paper-thin evidence. They speculated on a number of things during closing, and they want to tell you, they want you to do their job for them. Tell them no. Tell them if they're going to charge a person in your community with the most serious crime there is, they better have the facts. They better have the proof. They better have more than speculation and conjecture, because that's their job. It's not your job. One thing I want to point out here, though, is if after looking at all the evidence, you believe that Ms. Richins accidentally obtained fentanyl when she thought she was getting oxycodone, and then Eric took those pills voluntarily and died, that is not intentionally and knowingly. That is not aggravated murder. And if you conclude that, you must find Kouri Richins not guilty. All right,
You
attempted
should
murder.
have started there.
What is the evidence of this?
Why are you skipping over that point so quickly?
Matthew Throckmorton, the handwriting expert, All he could tell you is that Eric probably did not sign the True Stage insurance policy. Probably is reasonable doubt. And he could
That's a
not
better
tell you
argument.
that Kouri did sign it. They have not proven that Kouri forged Eric's signature. And there was no evidence either way if Kouri had permission to sign Eric's name on that True Stage life insurance. I mean, let's be serious. It's the rare married couple who doesn't occasionally say, hey, honey, I'm going to sign this for you. Is that okay?
Ma'am?
But there was no
He wrote her out of his will, though. This happened. Okay.
evidence either way. She's not guilty of forgery.
Okay.
All right, jumping to the insurance fraud counts, count 3.
She
Count
skipped over
3
that
is
faster than I thought she
directly,
would. Honestly.
Connected to count 5. Because this count alleges that Kouri fraudulently obtained that insurance policy, and the fraud was forging Eric's signature. They said there was a reversed social security number on there, but the fraud's the signature.
I mean, the phone number, though.
So if the state hasn't proven to you count 5, it automatically follows they haven't proven count 3, and you must find her guilty, not guilty on count 3.
Okay.
Count 4 alleges that Kouri fraudulently collected the True Stage insurance policy. All that means is if she did kill her husband and then represented something different to collect that insurance, that would be fraud. But if you find Kouri Richins not guilty on count 1, you have to find her not guilty on count 4. The state has not proven their case.
It's an interesting way to attack
They don't
that.
have the evidence that Kouri Richins killed her husband. So instead, they have tried to show you as much evidence as they possibly can to convince you that she's the sort of person who would. I have to tell you, I'm afraid to stop talking.
I bet you are. Cloak of righteousness.
As I stand here right now, Kouri Richins is still cloaked in a presumption of innocence. I don't ever want to walk back to that table. As a defense attorney, that is one of the longest walks a lawyer can make. This entire case is going to flash before my eyes. And all I will be able to think about once I sit down is, what did I miss?
Ma'am, it's not
What
about
did we miss?
you.
What didn't we tell you that you wanted to hear? Did I focus on what you wanted to know? Did we do enough? You're about to go through those doors and into the jury room and start deliberations. Everyone in this courtroom, everyone watching around the world, we all wish we could follow you and listen in. But that room, that jury room is yours. It's sacrosanct. In that room, you get to decide. And when you get in that room and you look at the evidence, if you think that Kouri Richins might have killed her husband, that she likely killed her husband, that she probably killed her husband, you must find her not guilty. Because maybe, probably, likely, very likely, none of these reach that extraordinary burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things when you go into that room. First, you might be tempted to go around the room and take a vote for guilty or not guilty to see where you all stand. We ask that you refrain from this. Instead, we ask, talk to each other about where you see reasonable doubt. Also, if Kathy or Alex or myself did something to offend you during this trial, please hold that against us.
Oh, look.
And not against.
There's the self-awareness. This is probably the best part of her closing, honestly. Hold it against us, not our client. If we didn't say something that you wanted to hear, if you were waiting for the defense to if you just answer this, don't hold that against our client.
So here's my final ask of you. When you're deliberating and something comes up that we didn't respond to, will you be courageous? Courageous enough to raise your hand and talk about what our response would be. Raise your hand for Kouri, because you are the last line between an innocent woman and the state. Be courageous. Courage is what this moment demands. The courage to stand between a member of your community and the state and demand that they comply with the Constitution, that they comply with their burden. Do not let them fool you. Do not fall for red herrings. Kouri Richins did not kill Eric Richins. The state did not prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, and you have
That's
the courage,
close.
have the courage to tell them this and find Kouri Richins not guilty.
There is a reason the state
Right.
provided you in its slides with the cite to every single piece of evidence it argued. We told you what transcript page and line number.
Yes, they did.
We told you what exhibit number. Because what the attorneys say doesn't matter. The evidence is what matters. And there's a reason defense counsel didn't cite you to the evidence. All the evidence in this case proves that Kouri Richins murdered her husband and the father of her 3 children, Eric Richins. There is no other rational explanation for the evidence. And despite all the evidence, Kouri Richins clings to the facade that has enabled her to get away with so much for so long.
Oh boy.
And despite all the evidence, Kouri Richins doubles down and blames Eric. She is intensely ambitious. See through her facade, check her ambition. Do not let her get away with murder.
I think it was like 15 minutes ago that I said, guys, go get dinner, do what you need to do. Don't worry. We're not going to be live again tonight. I need to just stop saying things because holy moly, am I wrong? They're going to want to sleep on it. They're not going to be back tonight. I said all of the words. And the jury was like, bet. I don't even think they deliberated for a full 3 hours. They got dinner and they were like, we got dinner and verdicts. That is, by all accounts, very, very fast on a long trial and serious counts, which means whatever they believed it probably prior to going into closing arguments and didn't have a ton that they needed to decide. And they're going to read the verdict. Remember, there are 5 counts here: aggravated murder, attempted murder,
Count 1,
insurance fraud.
Aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances.
These are the
regarding
aggravators.
Count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt.
These will be the aggravators.
The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered in a lethal amount, dosage, or quantity.
They found both of the aggravators. Count 2 is attempted.
Attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of attempted aggravated murder.
That's guilty on the attempt.
We, the jury, unanimously agree the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 2 beyond a reasonable doubt.
These will be the aggravators.
The attempted homicide was committed for pecuniary gain. Count 3, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud.
I imagine it'll be guilty across the board
Count
with
4,
this.
insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 5, forgery. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of forgery. It's signed by the foreperson. Please
right.
have a seat. Madam Foreperson,
That's not
is
easy for
this
Kouri.
the verdict that the jury reached unanimously?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you may have a seat. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, do you wish the jury to be polled?
Yes, please.
All right.
They're going to poll the jury.
Folks, I'll ask you the same yes or no question, one at a
It'll be
time,
interesting to
starting
hear
on
how they
my
answer.
left, working this way. Front row first. If you could show me your lanyard number as I ask you. Juror number 5, is this the verdict you voted in favor of?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this a verdict you voted in favor of? Juror number 3. I can't see your name, I'm so sorry. The foreperson, I just need to ask you again, I'm sorry. Juror number 2.
Yes, it is.
Juror number 1.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir. Juror number 8.
Yes.
Juror number 7.
Yes.
Juror number 6.
Yes.
All right. We'll set sentencing
Isn't May
for
13th the victim's
9:30
birthday?
a.m. Wednesday, May 13. We're hereby referring Ms. Richins for the preparation of a pre-sentence investigation report.
I think the 13th
Ms.
is the
Lewis,
victim's
anything else
birthday,
on the record today?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Bloodworth.
which has kind of a
Your
wild
Honor.
symmetry.
Ms. Richins, I'll see you again, May 13, 9:30 a.m. I need everyone to stay seated, follow the instructions of the Summit County deputies.
Wow.
The court is in recess. Travel safely.
Let's take a look at the defense's statement. I saw this on Kathy Russin's X. Law Nerds pointed it out. It looks like a typed out statement, so I'm just going to read the typed out statement. This was earlier today while the jury was deliberating, and I was like, that's a choice. I think I also said it feels like they're trying to get ahead of a guilty verdict. They can see the jury, we can't. So that's what it felt like to me when this statement came out. I don't know if I'll still feel that way, but this is the statement from Wendy Lewis, Kathy Nestor, Alex Ramos, attorneys for Kouri Richins. After 3 weeks of testimony and closing arguments, this case is finally where it belongs, in the hands of the jury. We are grateful to the jurors for the seriousness and care they have shown throughout this trial. They have listened closely to every witness and every piece of evidence, and we respect the responsibility they now carry. For nearly 3 years, the public has heard accusations about Kouri. Those accusations created a narrative that spread far beyond this courtroom. But in court, accusations are not enough. The law requires proof. After 3 weeks of testimony, the prosecution has failed to prove its case. The standard in this country is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That burden, they say, has not been met. Kouri has maintained her innocence from the very beginning. Over the past several weeks, the jury has had the opportunity to hear the full evidence, not the headlines. Not the speculation, but the facts. We believe in the jury system and we trust the process. Kouri should finally be able to go home to her 3 young boys and begin rebuilding her life. The defense, I think, did what they could with difficult facts. I don't think a different closing would have changed it. The jury was not deliberating long enough for me to think a different closing argument from the defense would have changed it. I imagine we're going to see at some point the defense being like, the jury got it wrong. Maybe not. But we will be back in court in May for sentencing in this case. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a law nerd.